Good afternoon. Welcome to the PaulRicard circuit for race 2 in the Ferrari Challenge TropheoPirelli series here in the sunshine in southern France. As we see the cars weaving from side to side on their way to the grid for this second race of 2 across the TropheoPirelli series this weekend. And going into this race, which as you can see is the 4th of the 7 dates across the season for 2015. We're at PaulRicard with Imola, Valencia and Mugello still to come. All the information at CorsaClienti.com. That is the website for you to check out everything that you would like to know about the Ferrari Challenge. And going into the race today, the points situation at the top of TropheoPirelli, very, very tight indeed, with Bjorn Grossman on 116 points and Babelis on 113. And they start P1 and P2 on the grid this afternoon, so set for a great race for sure. This 5.8-kilometre circuit here at PaulRicard, bathed in sunshine as it has been all weekend long. Temperatures in the very high 20s, with just a little bit of a breeze to cool as well. And there you can see the air temperature 28 degrees, track temperature 39 degrees. At one point in qualifying on Saturday morning, I beg your pardon, temperatures in the car up to 60 degrees. There's the Hublot safety car, which will lead the cars away on their formation lap. And a grid of 13 cars, including right at the very back of the pack is Fangio. Frédéric Jean-Marie Fangio, whose grandfather was cousin of the legendary Fangio racing driver, Juan Manuel Fangio, of course. All from the same village. And the order on the grid then, Grossman and Babelis P1 and P2. Babelis racing with that name. Matteo Santaporte is his name, but Babelis was used by his father to great success, and he uses that nom de plume as well. It's Sturzinger, then it's Gosner, then it's Merckx and Nelson and Segler and Zlobin, Vezzoni, Roca, Di Bernardi, Noflak and Fangio that we mentioned, and we can see the back end of the car, number 41 there. Sturzinger, we're on board with there, who wears our helmet camera. Let's give you a few snapshots, if you like, of this PaulRicard circuit and the environment here to enjoy. This weekend is part of the Ferrari Racing Days Festival, where everything that's good and great about Ferrari, including the F1 Clienti, are here. Those very, very lucky people that also own former Ferrari Formula One racing cars. There's Babelis then, who will be going from P2 on the grid. And there is our pole sitter, Bjorn Grossman for Octane 126, who leads the championship overall in TropheoPirelli. Now, there are 2 categories of drivers within the TropheoPirelli class. There's pro drivers, of which Babelis and Grossman both are, as is David Gosner here, who's going from P4. Then there are AM drivers as well. The legs to the right-hand side of your picture there belong to Corinna Gosner, or is it Manuela? Couldn't quite tell, to be honest, from the knees. And there we see Nicholas Sturzinger then going from P3, the Wojtek racing driver. Just to go back to the Gosners, it's Corinna and Manuela and David and Thomas, all racers. That's father and son and 2 daughters. And Manuela has just been out in the Copa race. We're on board now with Florian Merckx, who goes from P5 on the grid. And on board with Babelis there, looking back at the David Gosner car, the red and silver machine that you can see to the back. There is the Florian Merckx machine, run by Baron Service, former champion Philip Baron, team principal. And there Florian Merckx then. And there is Martin Nelson, who done very, very well across the weekend in terms of qualifying, and then was rather unceremoniously nerfed out of the way by Nikita Zlobin yesterday, who starts from P8, and Martin Nelson had to really, really drive to get back into the points, but he did that. And I was talking to him earlier this morning, and he said that actually that him being turfed out actually really gave him the motivation to get going. But of course he overdrove and ruined the rear tyres to finish in his points paying position in the end. But here is the highlights of yesterday's race. From the off then, it was a drag race between Bjorn Grossman and Babylos, with Martin Nelson really on a charge as well, and then the Russian driver in the mix as well, being Nikita Zlobin. And there were battles thick and fast as Octane 126 looked on with a sense of anxiety. That was what took Martin Nelson out of his brilliant position. Also took Zlobin out of the race because of all the coolant leaking from his car. Further down the order, Sturzinger having a battle here with the Tommaso Roca car. And again, seeing it from on board. We look back at the David Gosner car as the car ahead of him expires. Yet another retirement for the Tommaso Roca car. Bjorn Grossman and Babylos then heading towards the checkered flag. Babylos taking the win. So back to the Hublot safety car we go then. And we are 3 minutes away from the race starting. And as the graphics indicate, race about to get underway. Just a shade under 28 degrees as all the engineers leave the circuit now. And we're into the final stages of preparations before the race gets underway. Driver coaches, engineers, team principals, supporters, all making their way off the circuit. And just about to get into the safety car is Beppe Schinetti, who took me on a high-speed lap of the PaulRicard circuit yesterday, and took Eden Tesfaye, who's alongside me, for a high-speed lap as well. Boy, he can drive. Former champion back in the early 90s. Bjorn Grossman, P1. Babylos, P2. Nico Sturzinger is P3, David Gosner is P4, then it's Florian Merksand. Martin Nelson and Andreas Segler is P7, Nikita Zlobin will go from P8 on the grid. Then we see Alessandro Vezzoni and Tommaso Roca. Alexis Di Bernardi and Noflak is going from P12, Peter Noflak. Kessel driver, new in this weekend, as too is Frederic Jean-Marie Fangio. So, 1 minute to go before the start of this race. So Beppe then driving the safety car. And he won his World Championship back in the days of when the Ferrari F355 was the car for the Ferrari Challenge. We're into the 458 series of cars now, and the Evo version of the 458. With the additional wing and a splitter at the front aiding downforce of these cars. 4,400C mid-engine Berlinetta, already a utterly phenomenal machine as Beppe launches that safety car away from the start grid. 10 seconds later and the racing cars will follow. Indeed, we get the green flag from the marshals on track so that the formation lap can start. And away they go. If you'd like to check out all about the Ferrari Challenge by social network, there's all the information for you in graphics on the screen right now. So the cars weave from side to side to try and put some temperature into the Pirelli tyres, despite the fact that, as you saw, the temperature's pretty high anyway. It is important to still try and get some temperature into the tyres and also into the brakes as well. David Gostner there in the silver and red machine. And we have young supporters as well as old. There's Christian Hobone there, who is a Copa Shell racer himself, watching on. On board the Foytech Racing Sturzinger car, wearing our helmet camera. And looking back from the Scuderia Autoropa machine of Babylos. Super livery across the Babylos car and also that of Martin Nelson too, as we're on board with Florian Merckx now looking forward. Florian Merckx running from P5 on the grid. Now the safety car. Ensures that all the cars behind grid up. And once the race officials are happy with the way the grid looks behind the safety car for this formation and rolling start, the safety car will peel right into the pit lane, and it'll be down to the front row of Bjorn Grossman and Babylos to set the pace for the remaining few meters of the rolling lap, and the race will be on. 30 minutes of racing to come from the TropheoPirelli cars here. All Ferrari 458s. And around the final turn, safety car does indeed peel off. We throw the lights up to the left-hand corner of the top of the screen for you as we go from red to green. Let's go racing. Look at that, Florian Merckx really having a go down the outside. That's a brilliant move from Florian Merckx from his P5 starting position. He's right alongside David Gostner. And in that second row, they are three abreast now. Is Florian Merckx is going to go through to take up P3, or is he? Yes, he is. David Gostner coming under some pressure also from Martin Nelson, who's made a good move up the order too. And Florian Merckx is not happy with P3, he's looking for P2. All action right at the very start of this, and what a move from Florian Merckx. If he can make this stick, that will be phenomenal. He's gone through into P2 already and has denied Babylos. Martin Nelson, another one on a real charge. He's up the order as well. So Grossman, Florian Merckx, Babylos, and then it is David Gostner P4, Martin Nelson is P5. With Andreas Segler P6, it's Vezzoni and Sturzinger. So Florian Merckx now chasing down the leading car of Bjorn Grossman. What a phenomenal start from Florian Merckx in the number 88 Baron service machine. Absolutely incredible driving. Looking forward already to watching the replay of that start, because that was a real mean move and he meant every moment of it. Babylos, though, is beginning to fight back, I think. So this the battle for P2. Grossman on a charge. Look at the gap that he's built up already. And now Babylos up the inside of Florian Merckx. He's going to try and retake that P2 position, and he's done that. Perfect driving from Babylos. Just set that move up and executed it absolutely perfectly. So Florian Merckx is back down to P3. I say that, we're still on the opening lap, and bearing in mind where he started from, incredible move from him. So Florian Merckx is now P3, Babylos is P2, but all this is playing into the hands of Bjorn Grossman, who's away up the road, as you can see. David Gostner now is right on the back of Florian Merckx and would like to finish better than he did yesterday. Bjorn Grossman leads from Babylos, who is P2. Then it is Florian Merckx. David Gosner, Martin Nelson, Andreas Segler, Alessandro Vezzoni, then it's Sturzinger, Alexis Di Bernardi, Zlobin, Roca, Noflak and Fangio. So Florian Merckx then, despite that phenomenal start, was not able to hold Babylos at bay, and now Babylos is getting away. And it looks like David Gosner has got a little bit more pace than Florian Merckx as well, because he's right on the back of the all-black 458 now. On board with the Sturzinger car. Bit of contact there on Andreas Segler ahead of him, that's for sure, and around the outside came Alessandro Vezzoni. And that was Florian Merckx who was squeezing out the car of Babylos. So there's our race leader, just goes through on screen. Then P2 is Babylos, P3 Florian Merckx, P4 David Gosner. Whoa, Gosner took too much curb out there and it really lifted the back end, and the back end stepped out. Thankfully he was able to control that and hasn't lost too much momentum. Martin Nelson in P5. Runs the same livery as that P2 car of Babylos, as we're on board Babylos now, looking back at the Florian Merckx car, and you can see that the additional pace that Scuderia Autoropa car seems to have over Florian Merckx has built up a margin of just over a second between Babylos and Florian Merckx. Meantime, 2 seconds up the road, ahead of that Babylos car, is Bjorn Grossman, who leads this race. There is David Gosner then, running in P4 at the moment. Well, the battle for second position in the pro category, as you can see, between Babylos, Merckx and David Gosner, all pro drivers, before we get to the first of the AM drivers, which is Martin Nelson, who is running currently in P5 in the race overall. Another lap completed here at the PaulRicard circuit. Fastest lap goes the way of Bjorn Grossman, a 2:11.809. Of course, he's out front with 2.5 seconds margin and no traffic ahead of him to worry him. Alessandro Vezzoni is coming under some pressure now. It's Nicola Sturzinger right behind. There is Alessandro Vezzoni. Good pickup on that battle. It's the battle that is going on for P7. Nicola Sturzinger and Alessandro Vezzoni in the AM category. It's P3 in the AM category. It's actually P7 in the race overall, but as I mentioned right at the beginning of the program, there are 2 categories of drivers, the pro drivers and the AM drivers. Martin Nelson leading the AM category, as you can see at the moment, with Andreas Segler P2, Vezzoni P3, and Nicola Sturzinger is P4. Race leader overall, though, is Bjorn Grossman. Then it is Babylos P2, then Florian Merckx, and David Gosner really is keeping with Florian Merckx now. The Baron service driver on the brakes, and the brakes light up in the Martin Nelson number 13 machine. He has Andreas Segler behind him, and still this battle continues to rage between Alessandro Vezzoni and Nicolas Sturzinger. And Vezzoni is creeping in on the Andreas Segler car as well. Now, Segler is very conscious of that. He's not able to encroach too much on Martin Nelson at the moment, because he's having to drive with one weather eye on the rearview mirror. All that's going on behind him. Alexis Di Bernardi there with Nikita Zlobin behind, rounding out the top 10 in the race overall. So again, Sturzinger having a go at Alessandro Vezzoni here. Does he get alongside? He's in the wrong place, of course, going the very, very long way around that turn. Vezzoni really having to defend very, very hard here from the very lively number 93 car of Sturzinger. The final turn, turn 15, the right-hander into the start-finish straight. Foot on the gas, absolutely flat all the way now to turn number 1, the right-hander. Left-hander, beg your pardon, getting a direction in a muddle here. So Alessandro Vezzoni in car number 27. Just for the moment, Sturzinger eases off from that battle. just to allow the car to run outside the dirty air that's being kicked up from the back of the Alessandro Vezzoni car. Martin Nelson, that's leading that little pack at the moment. He is the best of the AM drivers. It's P5 overall. First 4 places occupied by pro drivers at the moment as Bjorn Grossman's fans look on. He's leading this race by just a shade under 3 seconds. So everything looks pretty comfortable for Bjorn Grossman, and what that will do is secure his position at the top of the points chart. Going into this, he had a margin of 3 points over Babalas, who is also running in P2. There's the AM positions at the moment. It's Nelson, Segler, Vezzoni and Sturzinger. And those 4 cars all in a row there. Rounded out by the Foytech racing driver, Sturzinger, who himself is now beginning to come under pressure from Nikita Zlobin, who was certainly in featuring the race yesterday, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong, and there appears to be damage to the back of the Zlobin car now. Well, damage to the back would suggest it wasn't of his making. This a replay of the start, and that phenomenal move from Florian Merckx we're on board with now. Absolutely extraordinary. Down the outside he came and it got right alongside David Gosner, and he was in the perfect place, wasn't he, for turn in for that turn, and momentarily held on to that P3 position. So Alessandro Vezzoni just taking a look up the inside of Andreas Segler there. And what's remarkable about this little battle is that all 3 of them, whilst they're battling, are staying with Martin Nelson, who's P5 overall, but P1 in the AM category. So Nelson, Segler, then it's Vezzoni, and then it is Sturzinger. 4 different teams all represented in that AM battle as Segler's back end stepped out a little bit there, and Alessandro Vezzoni again having to stick his elbows out. Martin Nelson really driving as they go. Alessandro Vezzoni does get through. Does Sturzinger get through as well? There's a bit of panel rubber between Sturzinger and Segler, and Zlobin's going to try and buy into this battle also. Is he going to be able to do so? Well, he's been denied thus far, so there is Martin Nelson, middle of your shot now, and with all the battles that are going on behind, just means that Martin Nelson is able to concentrate on his own race and not having to worry too much about defending behind, because they're battling themselves, aren't they? So battle for second position in AM is between Vezzoni, Sturzinger and Andreas Segler, because Martin Nelson, who's leading the AM category, that's his car, center screen now, the Scuderia Autoropo car, and Alessandro Vezzoni and Sturzinger continuing their race-long battle so far. We go on board with Sturzinger. He's wearing the helmet camera, and that door is left tantalizingly open, and then Vezzoni shuts it because Sturzinger is not able to get quite alongside. Through the gears they go. Is that a little error from Vezzoni? Looks like he's just playing with him, doesn't it? Because he leaves a gap and says, come on then. Try and get into that gap, and then the door is closed by Alessandro Vezzoni. Very good AM Ferrari Challenge TropheoPirelli driver, no question about that. And they are mighty close now as they complete another lap. So Vezzoni is really under pressure. He's in the right place to turn in for the corner. See how Sturzinger is really fighting with the steering wheel. Vezzoni really having to defend hard, all of that playing into the hands of Martin Nelson ahead, who is able to gap a little bit. So Sturzinger and the 93 car pushing for all he's worth. This was the earlier battle which involved Andreas Segler, and the little panel rub between them. It's a good save from Segler, to be honest. And he was able just to deny Zlobin from getting through as well. So battle for second position in the AM category continuing between Vezzoni, Sturzinger and Andreas Segler. 2 podiums at the end of this race, one for the pro drivers, one for the AMs. And now Andreas Segler is right on the back of this pack, and Alessandro Vezzoni feels the heat of 2 458s right behind. Vezzoni doing everything he can to defend. And of course what Sturzinger hopes is that Vezzoni will make a mistake and leave the door open for just a moment too long, and that's when Sturzinger will put his nose in there. When is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Slightly tighter line there from Sturzinger. Vezzoni is just beginning to look a little bit wayward as Sturzinger goes up the inside there. They are both absolutely side by side. Vezzoni will squeeze him out now. But if he remains committed to this, Sturzinger really, that's good racing between the two of them, because they allowed each other racing room. And Zlobin is in on Andreas Segler now, but takes to the curbs to do so. And Segler shuts the door on him. So Zlobin was denied. It was quite a forceful move. And Vezzoni completes another lap of hard and heavy defense that he's had to dish out. And now Andreas Segler is very conscious that he's got to focus on the bits falling off the back of the Zlobin car as he looks at him through the rear view mirror and tries to maintain his defense here of what is position 8 in the race overall, but P4 in the AM category. Now that was Sturzinger's best effort, I think, at trying to get past Alessandro Vezzoni, but to be fair, Vezzoni left him enough track room. But, as we do see, that looks like it is Sturzinger that has gone around. So Sturzinger has gone around. That has cost him dearly because he's lost places. He's got going once again. We'll see that in replay. Obviously, that was with the battle with Alessandro Vezzoni that we were just talking about in replay. Hopefully, we will see that incident replayed very, very quickly. We could just see at the back of the shot the car going round. So Sturzinger has fallen back down the order now. Doesn't look like there's damage to the car, and he's able to continue. Here it is then. And to be fair, he was all on his own, it looks like, and just carried too much speed, was not able to do anything other than pirouette, thankfully not collected by anybody else. And spins the car around and continues. So there is our race leader, Bjorn Grossman, who is... well, I'll tell you exactly as Babelos crosses the line. He is 3.7 seconds to the good in the Octane 126 car. So, comfortable position as we reach half distance in the race. Bjorn Grossman leads from Babelos. 3.727. The margin between Bjorn Grossman and Babelos, Octane 126, plays the Autoropa teams. Saw Bjorn Grossman just briefly at lunch earlier today, and I said, well done, P1. He says, of course, Dave, of course. So did that in qualifying, all the hard work was done, and now he's just putting in lap after lap after lap, consistently quicker than anybody else, although last lap round, Babelos was 0.3 quicker, 0.2 quicker, so bear that in mind. Babelos has still got some pace. Whether he's able to deliver that pace lap after lap after lap to try and get on terms with Bjorn Grossman as we reach the third part of this race, well, we will see. But at the moment, Grossman, you just feel, is probably just managing it perfectly. Those are the only two drivers in the 212s, as Sturzinger, sadly, is out in the Foytech racing car, or is he? We've left the motor running, so perhaps he'll be able to rejoin. Is the car going to be released from the jack? There is Florian Merckx, who is running in P3. The Baron service driver, who's out on his own. He's got 7 seconds worth of gap to Babylos ahead of him, and some 6 seconds of gap behind to David Gosner. So he really is out on his own, is Florian Merckx, which means he's able to focus, of course, on nailing every apex and driving each and every lap. But just comparing his lap time at 2:14 last time around, 2:14.039 to 2:12.789, it's proving how much quicker the two ahead are. So Sterzinger does rejoin, and rejoins just behind Babylos in P2. So the car of Sterzinger is going to be back marking, having been into the pit lane for whatever damage was caused in the skirmish with, well, there was no skirmish with Vezzoni. He went round on his own, didn't he? AM leader is Martin Nelson, as you can see there in car number 13. P2 is Vezzoni, P3 is Segler, and P4 now in the AM category is Alexis Di Bernardi, with Roca, Noflak, Sterzinger and Fangio bringing up the rear in the AM category. So Martin Nelson then in car number 13 leads the AM category for Autoropa. Fantastic livery on that car, I have to say. That livery mirrored on the Babylos machine, of course, which is out of the same stable. There's David Gosner, who is P4 in the number 50 car. So Grossman, Babylos, Merckx, Gosner, Nelson, Vezzoni, Zegler, Zlobin, Di Bernardi and Roca, the top 10 in the race overall. P2 in AM is the Rosso Corsa Pelin driver Alessandro Vezzoni in car number 27. Car number 97, the returning car of... it's not the returning car, it is in fact Tommaso Roca, is being advised to respect the track limits. There's Andrea Segler, P3 in AM in the Stylev Squadra Corsa machine. Alessandro Vezzoni again, sort of out on his own really, untroubled at the moment by Zegler. Once again, Zegler shortly is going to have Nikita Zlobin breathing on him in the number 40 car. There's Alexis Di Bernardi. And then it's the car of Tommaso Roca, which is being advised to respect the track limits. So Tommaso Roca in the top 10. He is running in P10 in the race overall. And there, the confirmation of that information from race control. Car number 97 must respect the track limits. Been advised of that. Interestingly, just seen on the timing screen that Peter Noflak has had a moment where he's continued straight on at T9, carrying too much speed and wasn't able to make the turn. So there is Andrea Zegler and Zlobin right behind. With the damage to the rear end of that 458. So through the heat haze comes Alessandro Vezzoni. And just checking out the times here. 10th quicker on the last lap was Babylos than Bjorn Grossman. Gap is still 3.4 seconds, mind you. And we have 8.5 minutes of the race left to run. Zegler, for the moment, is holding Zlobin at bay. Battle for P7 in the race overall. Alessandro Vezzoni is P2 in the AM category. Zegler is P3. And then Nikita Zlobin there in the SMP racing machine is currently P4, takes a completely different line through that turn to the line of Zegler. Just wonder whether both of them are beginning to catch Alessandro Vezzoni a little bit as well. Super slow-mo replay of the pro leader, and that is Bjorn Grossman, who's the leader of the race overall, also the Octane 126 driver. And there is the leader of the AM category, Martin Nelson, who's P5 in the race overall, but P1 in the AM category in this TropheoPirelli race 2 of 2 this weekend at the PaulRicard circuit. And Zegler, I said, is getting closer to Alessandro Vezzoni. Well, he's right on him now. And this is the battle for P2 in AM. It's the battle for P6 in the race overall between Alessandro Vezzoni and Andrea Zegler. The Star Left Squadra Corsa racer versus Rosso Corsa Pellin. And Zegler's certainly looking to have more pace than Alessandro Vezzoni at the moment. Vezzoni's last lap was a 2:16.906, a full second quicker was Zegler. So Zegler has clearly got the pace. Zlobin is tucked in behind this battle as well. And 6.5 minutes left to run. Here comes Zegler with a move on Alessandro Vezzoni. Then through the heat haze they come, absolutely side by side. And that a good move from Zegler. Very clean and purposeful overtake. And Vezzoni allowed the room between the two of them. And now Zlobin is trying to buy into this battle as well. You can see the damage to the rear end of that 458 as he gets past Alessandro Vezzoni. So whether it's nothing more than just tyre wear on the Vezzoni car that has caused him to slow significantly to allow these two to not only catch up but pass as well. Who's next? Alexis Di Bernardi, who might be on the back of Alessandro Vezzoni very soon indeed. And also the very wayward number 97 car of Tommaso Rocca. The battle for P4 in AM between Tommaso Rocca and Alexis Di Bernardi. Alexis Di Bernardi, the Luxembourg-based driver, and Tommaso Rocca is the car with the MSC livery, number 97 there, right in the middle of your picture. And sure enough, Alexis Di Bernardi is right on Vezzoni now. So can Alexis Di Bernardi find his way past the number 27 machine? Sterzinger has finally retired his car, so number 93 is out of the race. So Alexis Di Bernardi now lining up the Alessandro Vezzoni car. And this was the replay of the move that Andrea Zegler made. And it was a good one. Through and past. And whilst Vezzoni tried to fight back on the inside, did not have the pace of the Andrea Zegler car. And Zlobin has now got past to Vezzoni as well. Did that a little while after that overtake. And now it is Alexis Di Bernardi on the back of the Alessandro Vezzoni car, although he's not as close as he once was. So whatever issues Vezzoni has got in terms of pace, he's driving through them, and I suspect it's nothing more than tyre degradation, truthfully. We have 4 minutes left of the race to run. The race being led by Bjorn Grossman, who has a margin of some 2.9 seconds. So that has been brought down significantly by Babylos, but I think it's too little too late, to be honest. I don't think Babylos is going to be able to challenge for the lead in just under 4 minutes of race duration that we have left. There is Martin Nelson out on his own, who is the AM category leader. Zegler is AM P2, and it's Alessandro Vezzoni who is P3 for AM at the moment. There is the boss of the Octane 126 organisation looking on at his driver Bjorn Grossman, who's doing absolutely nothing wrong, doing everything well out there and leading this race comfortably with a margin of some 2.7 seconds over Babylos, who is P2. So Alessandro Vezzoni, and now Zegler is under pressure from Nikita Zlobin then in car number 40. And here is Alexis Di Bernardi. Again, back on the back of Alessandro Vezzoni. So what can Zlobin do? What can Di Bernardi do to move up, respectively, a further place in the order. Getting through the heat haze, we await our race leader, Bjorn Grossman. And it is a full 2.6 seconds before we see Babyliss, who again has taken another 3/10 out of Bjorn Grossman. But I think it's the charge and the challenge is going to come too late, because we have just 2.5 minutes left to run of the race. And Bjorn Grossman, who went into this race with a points advantage of just 3, will again finish ahead of Babyliss. Here comes the live gap between the two of them. It's 2.4 now. So Babyliss really is on a charge in the final stages of this race, but under 2 minutes left to run. It's going to be too much, I'm sure, unless Bjorn Grossman does make a very, very uncharacteristic mistake. Babyliss certainly quicker through Sector 1, is quicker through Sector 2 as well. So Babyliss does mean business, but I think his business is meant too late in the race to have any chance of overhauling Bjorn Grossman. I just happen to think that he's managing that gap perfectly. He's doing as much as he needs to do without overdriving the car too much. So Bjorn Grossman now crosses the timing line. We'll give you the live gap. It's down to 1.8. Down to 1.8. And this is the final lap. We have less than a lap time in on the clock, so this becomes the final lap. And I would say it will take a big, big mistake from Bjorn Grossman to allow Babyliss to get close enough to even think about having a go, because even though the gap has come down significantly, I just think that Bjorn Grossman has got this really rather all under control. Fair credit to Babyliss, though, for chasing him down, but I just think that there's not enough racing time left for that man to get on terms with our race leader, Bjorn Grossman. In the AM category, it's Nelson, Zegler and Vezzoni. The 1, 2, 3 remain the same. In the pros, it's Grossman, Babyliss and Merckx. And this is our race leader, Bjorn Grossman, pro driver, leading the pro category of the championship, and will continue to do so at the conclusion of this race if it all stays the way it is at the moment. Interestingly, Bjorn just turned the wick up a bit through Sector 1 and was quicker than Babyliss. Babyliss responded by being 4/10 quicker through Sector 2. None of it is going to be enough, though, as Bjorn Grossman is heading for home to give another victory to the Octane 126 team. Christian Berchinger, the team boss at Octane 126. We saw him on the pit stand just a few moments ago. We'll be delighted that Bjorn Grossman is delivering, and delivering well out there. So the final turn, and Bjorn Grossman gives it a footful and will head towards the checkered flag to take the win for Octane 126. Bjorn Grossman wins at PaulRicard. Babyliss is P2 at PaulRicard. And then some distance back will be Florian Merckx to take P3 at PaulRicard. There he rounds turn 15 and heads towards the checkered flag. The 1, 2, 3 in the race, all pro drivers. Before we will see Martin Nelson, who will take the win for the AM category, ahead of Zegler and Zlobin, who managed to get ahead of Vezzoni, but in the pro category. So in the race overall, Zlobin will finish ahead of Vezzoni, but Vezzoni will retain his P3 in the AM category. So the TropheoPirelli race done and dusted. And Martin Nelson takes the win in AM, and he's delighted, as you can see.
Goody.
Tommaso Roca. Ran very, very wide there. Alexis Di Bernardi, you can see there in the number 65 car, finishes P8 overall and finishes P4. So there's more synchronized flag waving from the marshals here at PaulRicard. And the car's on their way to Parc Fermé right now. Two podiums to come, one for the pro drivers and one for the AM drivers. So race 2 in TropheoPirelli done and dusted, and the marshals stand by for the cars to approach, and we'll start now. Thank you. Right on cue. And of course the drivers, Florian Merckx waves to them. Without the marshals, of course, we wouldn't be racing. So as always, big thanks for all their efforts across the race weekend here, the Ferrari Racing Days event at the PaulRicard circuit. Up next, it's Imola, then it's Valencia, and then it's the finale Mondiali at Mugello. There is Bjorn Grossman, winner here at PaulRicard, into the pit lane, and will park up in front of P1 in Parc Fermé. You can probably hear on the effects microphones there's quite a bit of wind around here. Here then the top 3 in the 2 categories: Grossman, Babylos, Merckx for pro. Then it's Nelson, Segler, Vezzoni for AM. The 1, 2, 3 in each of the categories, as Florian Merckx gives us some donuts. Now, he'd never raced at this circuit until he arrived here earlier in the week, so he'll be pretty pleased with his podium position. Slows down for the pit lane, and the Baron service driver will park up in front of P3. There is Bjorn Grossman, our race winner. He was pretty confident going into the race, it has to be said. Congratulated by the team. Baron congratulating Babylos. Philip Baron, of course, team boss of Baron Service, which runs Florian Merckx, who we just saw doing some donuts. Right on cue, there they are again. P3, Florian Merckx for Baron Service. Oh, the car bogged down a bit there. Had it in the wrong gear, friend. Babylos, as always, cool as a cucumber.
Very good. Very good.
In the end, he had nothing to take to Bjorn Grossman, that's for sure. Okay, so an exciting race. Let's give you some of the highlights. As green lights came on, Florian Merckx absolutely floored his 458 as we go on board with him now, and overtook 2 rows of cars, run alongside David Gerstner. He went to try and take away P3, and he did so going into turn 1. Sadly, he wasn't able to hold on to it for too long. Bjorn Grossman's fans looked on in delight as he, of course, took the race lead. Alessandro Vezzoni was in a race-long battle with Nicholas Sturzinger. Sturzinger in the end just trying just a bit too hard and ended up putting the car round. And that's how it happened. Absolutely no fault other than the fact that he just was driving so on the limit. Also on the limit towards the end of the race was Babylos in terms of trying to catch the Octane 126 star. Bjorn Grossman, he did catch him, but he didn't catch him quite enough to make it to P1. That honour fell to the Octane 126 driver, Bjorn Grossman, winner here at PaulRicard. There is Martin Nelson then, winner in the AM category. And in the Drivers' Championship then, it's now 10 points that Bjorn Grossman has over Babylos. If you recall at the start of the programme, I said it was 3 points. Well, he's increased that to 10 now with Florian Merckx P3, Ghostner P4. Then it's Dario Carzo, sadly missing at the moment. Hurry back, Dario, we miss you. Then it's Shaitar and Ferrano and Pergel and Zlobin and Stephen Earle rounding out the top 10 in the Pro Drivers' Championship. We'll bring the AM Drivers' Championship in just a few moments. But first of all, let's head up to the podium. Well, just as we sit below the podium, because they're not quite ready for us yet. The podium just a few steps away from our commentary position here at the PaulRicard circuit. 2 podiums, as I mentioned, one for the Pro category of drivers. And here comes the Pro. Florian Merckx then, P3. Pretty chuffed about that. Good drive from Florian Merckx. An incredible start. Really, really impressive. Babylos P2. Congratulate each other. And a very, very astute drive and assured drive from Bjorn Grossman, who takes P1. So national anthem playing out for Bjorn Grossman, the Octane 126 driver that takes the win. Looks like Oliver Beretta making the trophy presentations. Indeed so. The Ferrari GT ace, Oli Beretta. Super guy, makes the trophy presentation to Babylos. And now to Bjorn Grossman. And the Octane 126 team take the team's trophy. Theo Mayer then, the Pirelli Ferrari Challenge Manager, makes the Pirelli Trophy presentation to Bjorn Grossman. All the guys will stand on the top step of the podium now for the photographs. And then it will be time for champagne. And then it will be the AM podium. So who's going to be first and quickest with the... No question, it was going to be Grossman, wasn't it? So Grossman then celebrating as all of them there. See Tommy Lindroth looking on, that's good to see. Other drivers from Copachel as we take a look at the top 3. It was Florian Merckx for Baron Service then, who took P3 in the all-black machine. P2 went the way of the Auto Roper driver Babylos, in that livery that's shared by that car, and also the winner in the AM category, that of Martin Nelson. We'll see him on the top step of the podium shortly. But on the top step of the Pro podium is this man, Bjorn Grossman for Octane 126. Certainly took plenty of curb, but knew exactly what he was doing throughout the race. And took yet another win for Octane 126 and cemented his position at the top of the points chart going into the next round at Imola, which is 19th and 20th of September. So we stand by for the AM podium, the AM Drivers' Championship is looking pretty comfortable for Martin Nelson on 127 points. Alessandro Vezzoni is P2, with Andreas Zegler in P3. And interestingly, who are we going to see? Martin Nelson, Andreas Zegler, and Alessandro Vezzoni on that podium. Not in quite the same order for certainly P2 and P3 in the championship, but those are the three drivers we're going to be seeing up there. There's Alessandro Vezzoni, the Rosso Corsa Pellin racer. Had a lot of work to do in the race today, but secured P3. Andreas Zegler, some good racing from him, sees him take P2 for Style F Squadra Corsa. And Martin Nelson with another good drive. Sees him takes the win for Scuderia Autoropa. And there is Martin Nelson, who jumps to the top step of the podium, helped up there by Alessandro Vezzoni, which was very generous of him. A national anthem. The facial expression of Alessandro Vezzoni revealing just how hard he had to work for that P3. As once again, Ollie Beretta, the GT racer, makes the trophy presentation first of all to Alessandro Vezzoni for P3. Then for P2, it'll be Andreas Zegler. And for P1, then Martin Nelson takes a win in race 2 in the AM category. So good weekend for Autoropa team. And the team's trophy as well. Someone's going to get some champagne. Martin Nelson taking the Pirelli trophy as well from Teo Meyer from Pirelli. And they'll all get together for the photograph. And then once again it will be time for champagne. And I'll have a Euro with you that it will be Martin Nelson the quickest with it. Next event then Imola, 18th to the 20th of September. That's where we'll be next. All the information at CorsaClienti.com. That's the website for you to check out everything that you would like to know about the Ferrari Challenge, the TropheoPirelli and the Coppershell races. And Imola, 18th to the 20th of September. We go into our summer break now from Ferrari Challenge, just for a few weeks before we return for the final run into the championship and the Finale Mondiale right at the end of the year in Mugello. And we look at the flags from the back of the podium then, as Bjorn Grossman takes the Pro win, Martin Nelson takes the AM win, and Imola then next before we head off to Valencia at the beginning of October. Then, as I mentioned, the Finale Mondiale comes the way at Mugello in Italy, as we take some images then of some of the action across the course of the weekend here in PaulRicard. What a fantastic racing weekend. What a fantastic Ferrari Racing Days weekend here at the PaulRicard circuit. Bathed in beautiful weather across the whole weekend. The weather and the temperature almost as hot as some of the racing action that we've seen as well. So from me, thank you so much for watching. Thanks to my production team of Anna Maria Marone and also Franco Maselli doing a great job for me, and to Eden alongside me. We'll see you at the next round of the Ferrari Challenge very soon. Bye-bye for now.